Archer that ditch from that dive bar. My name is Matthew Kroll.
Funny, that's what I've been calling you, and I'm Matt Nando Kelly.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film Supergirl. Now, Matt, welcome once again to the Covering for Shahir Matt show. Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm very happy to be here. I don't know why every one of these I've been in has been some sort of bomb well, actually, that's not true. I know I've been here for one of them that's been successful. I do remember I was here for Eternals, and I cannot remember what the other ones were, but yeah, so it's a bad sign. Someone should call like Warner Brothers or something and tell them not to release the movie if I'm scheduled to do the podcast that week, because it's it's a weird omen. Not that the movie's bad necessarily, not tipping hats or anything, but yeah, it's a funny coincidence.
So you've been on the show technically five times. I think this will be the sixth.
Wow, where's my jacket?
I know. We need to get the 5 jacket.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously did Eternals.
Yep.
We also did Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
There you go. There's another one. Yep.
You were then on the panel that we did at one of the PAXs, Have Video Game Movies Gotten Good? I think that was in 2024.
Yep.
Then we did Thunderbolts. That wasn't was that a dud?
That was good. Yeah, I'll take that. No, I mean, it wasn't incredibly successful, but I think it probably made its money back, and it was generally well received.
Yeah.
So that's important.
And then before that, thematically appropriate Superman.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We were on the Superman one.
Yeah.
But yeah. Nice.
So we're like 50-50.
Yeah.
Kind of. We'll see by the end of this one.
2 for 2 in terms of the movies in the new DCU. So, you got to have me back for Clayface, I guess, or whatever the next one of these ends up being.
I think it is Clayface, right?
Yeah, it should be Clayface. We got Lanterns in summer, the show, Clayface, and then I think the next Superman movie is the next thing after that. So, yeah. And then also looking back at that panel, man, 2024, sure, video games were getting good, but 2026 is the year video games become good, like movies. And it's crazy how much that is happening right now.
Speaking of that just a little bit, I think every time I go to the movies now and I see the Street Fighter trailer, like I do actually get way more pumped than I thought. Even like I'm pumped already. I was dying. Actually, I really wanted to do for one of the PAXs is get you, and we were actually just talking about mutual friend Sophia from Movie Struck. I wanted to do if PAX came later in the year, I was going to do Mortal Kombat 2 versus Street Fighter, but the movies, but it just doesn't hit. Like it's like a month after, and I was just like, God,
that makes sense.
Maybe some other time.
Just based on my hopes and dreams about it, the Street Fighter movie is going to be so good, it wouldn't even be a conversation worth having. It would be like comparing, a nice little Toyota Corolla to the finest Lamborghini on the market. It'd be like, you could have the conversation, but really everybody just knows the answer.
We'll see. I mean, listen, I'm trying to remember. Did you enjoy Mortal Kombat 2 or no?
Yeah, I thought Mortal Kombat 2 was fun. Yeah. It was definitely better than the first one, and they did a bunch of this. You know what? Johnny Cage did the nut punch, and that was it for me. That was enough for me to be like, I'm on board.
Yeah. No, I had a lot of fun with it. I enjoyed it much more than I thought I did, and I liked that they basically course corrected as much as it felt like they could, and we'll see if it ever gets a third one. Who knows? You know what I missed the most? Right in front of my subway stop, there was a giant billboard for Mortal Kombat 2 with Liu Kang and Revenant Kung Lao fighting in that like blue place. Cool. And every time I walk the subway, I just look up and be like, 12-year-old me would not believe this right now.
Yeah.
And that was always a really fun little moment. Now it's like a law firm, like injured in a car accident. Which I have not been, though I did hurt my foot today, as I was saying. But that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about the 2026 film Supergirl, which I will just read very quickly, the Internet Movie Database description of Supergirl, just so we're all on the same page. Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, joins forces with an unlikely companion on an interstellar journey of vengeance and justice when an unexpected adversary strikes too close to home. That feels a little more Mad Libby than I would want it to. But it's accurate. So, Matt, real quick, what you and I have talked about this a little bit, but I feel like every one of my comic book friends has talked to me about this as well. The book that this is based off of, Woman of Tomorrow, which this did have originally that subtitle on it, I believe, in pre-production and maybe a little in production. I have not read it, much to my detriment, but I believe that's one of your favorite books. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, for sure. It is it is a modern classic. I can't remember exactly when it came out, but it was somewhere in the last like 10 years. And it's nice and short, like 8 issues, I think. Yeah. And it's like this movie, it's kind of basically True Grit, except the art is incredible. And like, I feel like that is what it's mostly known for. You could kind of flip to any page in it and find like a very iconic image. Some of them, not every page looks like it's been hit with the, vibrance filter up to 1,000,000, but it's a beautiful book. And when they announced they were making this movie, when James Gunn did his Gods and Monsters kind of presentation, they named the movie this. They even used an image from from like one of the covers from the comic as the like, we're doing Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. And I think myself and everybody were like, oh, I love that book. If they just hand the book to someone, they will be able to turn that into something really cool. Like those, it's one of those books that's recent enough that you're like, they kind of knew when they were making it, like this might get adapted into a movie one of these days. So like, it's very cinematic in scope generally, but also very like, I can see it happening. And we've all, anybody that's been a big fan of this book has thought this for a while, like it would translate really well into a movie or a series, as long as they made it look cool and, had all the interesting parts in it. So
sure. And that was, I believe it was illustrated. I butcher this name. Is it Bilquis Everly?
So I was always curious about this. I assume it's Bilky Everly just because that's the name of the planet in this movie that's named after her. And that's how they pronounce it, right? Like,
yeah, Bilky. Yeah.
Bilky. So okay. I imagine, I believe she's Brazilian.
Yes.
And I feel like it's one of those names where you can kind of, you pronounce it really like, I don't know. It's one of those names that I feel like I'll always pronounce a little bit wrong because I'm trying my best, but it's tough. And, but yeah, she's the art, the
illustrator,
line work behind it, and then Matthias Lopez does the coloring, I believe. And,
and that was originally written by Tom King, which I'm trying to remember what Tom King has done.
So Tom King, famous for outside of comics, he's writing the Green Lantern show.
Oh,
he wrote Mr. Miracle, that comic that's very popular. He wrote the Visions comic, where the Vision has a suburban family.
Oh, nice.
And he's written a lot of very fun, like Human Target, one of my favorites from recent times. Strange Adventures, really good, and he's currently writing Wonder Woman, he's responsible for Kite Man. Hell yeah, that's a book he wrote. Like he's got a lot of pretty he's divisive for reasons, but he does have a lot of hits that are hard to deny. And I would say this is maybe, besides maybe Mr. Miracle, his most critically popular, successful adaptation. But I'm sure there's people that don't like it as much as I do, but I would say most of the community, from what I understand, pretty big fans of this book.
It seems like it's a darling book. It seems like again, like many people have told me, it seems like it is just pre-built to be turned into a movie. Which I guess they kind of did. Craig Gillespie did here. Craig, also known for Lars and the Real Girl, I believe. I'm trying to think of his other.
I, Tanya. I would say
he was a producer or director.
Most people have seen.
Yeah,
I think he directed it.
Did he?
He's directed a couple of other things, I think. But I feel like whenever one of these guys comes up that I'm not super familiar with, I have to find one thing that I saw that I liked, and that was my one for him, was I, Tanya.
Gotcha. I believe also, it is. Yep, I just saw that, and also Cruella, the 2021 Cruella.
So nobody's perfect. It was COVID. Yeah. Everything's But yeah, he did do the Cruella movie.
But also every person who I've spoken with about Supergirl who's not, I would say, of the cinematic discussion and or criticism cloth is already thinking that this is directed by James Gunn, because that seems like if you're the general vibe of the current DC cinematic universe is all James Gunn all the time, because I think up till this point he has directed every piece since he took over. That would
directed and written, I believe. I think if anything, he hasn't directed every episode of Peacemaker, I think, because there was a little bit of they would bring guest directors in. But he wrote all Peacemaker, he wrote all Creature Commandos, he wrote all Superman, and then he directed, I guess, Creature Commandos as much as he can, and produced it. But then, fully directed Superman, doing the same for Man of Tomorrow, which will be out next year. We have the Clayface movie, which is the Mike Flanagan written, produced by somebody else or directed by somebody else. I can't remember who. Projects like that one seems the most removed from James Gunn. But this one, I agree. It feels very, if you didn't know that James Gunn directed one of these movies, Supergirl and Superman, and you looked at him, you'd be like, oh, he directed the Supergirl movie. That looks exactly like one of the ones he makes. Superman, you'd be like, there could be a bunch of people that would kind of make a movie like that. So, not to say that it's not good or special, but this one feels so James Gunn.
This one feels of a time. I guess this will sort of get into my sort of first thoughts about it. It feels of a time long past. And by that, I mean, like, I don't know, my years are ever since COVID, my time scale has been all wonky. But like in my head, I'm like 2014, 2015, or like something very of that ilk. Because I mean, the entirety of this movie from I would say, and this is kind of odd if it's based on Women of Tomorrow, from an art direction kind of standpoint, feels very Guardians of the Galaxy coded. I think that everything down from like the way that space society functions, or at least the elements of space society that we see, to the ships, to I think actually in your video you commented on like people were commenting on her coat, though she wears that in the book anyway, like and specifically the odd choice. If you want to speak to this for a second, the odd choice of giving her basically Star-Lord's headphones.
I was really curious about this as it started showing up in the marketing, because almost all of the early posters had her just kind of standing around in the coat, which is, like you said, from the comics, and this very casual outfit, which felt correct, like felt very close to what the first issue of the book sets up Supergirl as. But then, she had these little Star-Lord headphones, and it's like Star-Lord has them because he was a child in the 80s on Earth. He left Earth and he felt a very strong connection to his mother, who was very connected to music. So he like kept those, and that explains why in 2014 or whatever the present day was in the Marvel Comics universe, when they made Guardians of the Galaxy, like he had those headphones still. Kara is not from Earth. She was not on Earth in the 80s. She seems like she's been on Earth for less, like she was on Earth, we see this in the movie, while Superman was Superman, and he's only been Superman for 3 years in that narrative. So like she hasn't been on Earth for more than 2 years. I don't even know where she got him. Like she would have had to pay a lot of money. Even Clark, who maybe he gave him to her, he seems too old or too young for him. So it doesn't feel like, I feel like there is a version of this movie that obviously doesn't exist, but like takes more contemporary choices in terms of music and in terms of like costuming, and gives her like, I don't know, like earbuds that are just plain old Apple earpods. It would be a little weird because of, any branding like that. But like that would be what that character would have based on the time frame that she's from.
And also other than the music that we hear often, well, sometimes depending on the jukebox, but like oftentimes the needle drops are not diegetic in any sort of way here. Right? Like they're playing in the background. Music for this character doesn't feel like a huge draw. Like you could say like partying and running away from your trauma is the draw, and I guess you listen to music if you're going dancing. But like Peter Quill, music is like kind of how he relates to humanity after being kidnapped by the Ravagers. Here, she arrives on Earth after Krypton is destroyed, or actually after her city is destroyed, or everyone's going to die there later. And it doesn't feel like she actually. Ooh, you know what? I might have stumbled on it though. The style of the headphones still doesn't. She puts on headphones to drown out being able to hear everybody. Like there's one scene where she like, I don't think enjoys or can't take like hearing all of the suffering going on around her, or like the din of the city, but like from a metahuman perspective. So so maybe that's it, but still I agree with you. Like it should have, like, I don't know, it should have been something else, because you can't get away from like the whole visual style of this movie is Guardians of the Galaxy, and then you have that, and then it's not directed by James Gunn, and it feels very like I don't even know what the vibe. There's something that just feels like too on the nose about it, even though I mean, who knows if it was even meant to be that way. But you start questioning it, because otherwise, I think, I mean, there's a couple other things we'll get into a little bit, but overall, I will say I enjoyed my time here. It did not blow my mind, but I had fun with it. I did, even though it is a breezy, roughly 90 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, it's super short. I can't.
I actually, though, by the end, I was like, I felt like I'd seen what we were seeing before. We'll get into it a little bit more. And not that I like want it to be shorter. I was just like, I was ready for it to be done by the time it was over. What about you? I've sort of been rambling along. What were your sort of first thoughts, first feelings about this?
I do agree. Like, I overall, saw the movie and like, I don't know if this is before the reviews were out, but I was pretty much like, this is okay. This is fine. Like, I'm not like, I've had movies that I've seen this month that I quite did not like, and movies that I was quite like pleasantly surprised by, and it wasn't either of those. It was right in the middle for me. I think the thing for this movie that, as I was watching it, I kind of realized, because if you're familiar with the structure of the book or the structure of True Grit or any, I feel like it does feed, like the pacing of this book's very simple, or the movie's very simple, but if you've seen the trailers for this movie, you've seen the movie. Like, all of every action beat, every, like, most big character moments. There's very few surprises, I feel like, in this movie. So as we were getting into the final stretch, for me, I also was like, all right, well, let's do it. Like, we got the big fight. And I think this movie is okay as a movie. And, like, I can understand why someone would see it and go, this is fine. I do think, like you're saying, it is a generation late. Like, it's 10 years too late in terms of its design, kind of what it has to say. And I think as an adaptation of the book, it's very bad. I think and it seems like, and we're seeing a lot of interviews now, they are very like deliberate in not directly adapting the book and going like, we're going to make it, we're going to look at it once we're done with our storyboarding so we can make our own vision. And that's something you can do, I guess, but I don't understand why anyone
But then it just felt like they made James Gunn's vision from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Right? Like that. So like, I get it. Like that is true. You're doing a different version than what the book was, but it doesn't feel like nothing about this. And this kind of is what kind of got me is nothing about it feels original at all. And again, that's fine. Like, it's just not gonna like break any records. I feel like it seems as though with the breakaway successes of like Obsession and Backrooms and it seems like people, hell, I'll even go, even though this wasn't as big of a financial success, but big in its wheelhouse, even like Iron Lung, right? Like I'm saying, like, people want just something that feels a little bit new if they're going to go to the movies. Like, I think you can still do spectacle and you can still be but it has to be so huge you can't avoid it. Like essentially, I think like an Avengers, and we'll see if a Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, I think like Project Hail Mary is a good example of that this year that totally worked and is big space spectacle. So it can be done.
Yeah, perfect 4-quadrant movie.
Yeah, I think it's a real bummer if I was Supergirl that movie came out this year, because if I was Supergirl, I would say, like, if I was just watching this movie and there was no Project Hail Mary, part of me would be like, well, you couldn't possibly translate those bright colors and that big space visual. It's just too expensive. And then I would realize, oh wait, they did it in Project Hail Mary like 3 months ago. It can be done. And like, it's tough for these guys.
You work hard to keep your family healthy. You eat clean, stay active, ask questions, and want the freedom to make the best decisions for their healthcare. So why does the traditional system still feel so expensive and disconnected from actual care? Crowd Health is different. Built for families, entrepreneurs, and independent-minded people, Crowd Health is a community of more than 28,000 members helping fund each other's medical bills directly without restrictive networks or corporate middlemen standing in the way. Over 40,000 medical bills have already been funded. It's not health insurance. It's a simpler, more human way to pay for healthcare. You choose any doctor you want. Plus, a dedicated care advocate helps you navigate every step of the way. Because communities take better care of each other than corporations do. If you've ever felt frustrated with the traditional system, it's time to see why thousands of people are choosing something different. Learn more at joincrowdhealth.com. That's joincrowdhealth.com.
I'll even say, even from a sort of spectacle thing, and I'm going to check this, like, one thing that we talked about, I think, briefly on a text or something was Disclosure Day.
Yeah.
And Disclosure Day, it's doing fine. I don't know what the budget was, but it was, I think worldwide is at 193 mil.
I think it needs 300 to break even. I think it was on the expensive, like, I think it was under 200, but like, I don't know, maybe 120, 150, something like that.
Yeah. And that's a movie that, I mean, we had a long discussion on our episode about that, where it's like, how do you rate a Spielberg film? And there's right. 2 or 3 different ways that none of them are wrong. That is a movie that I did not connect with much. In fact, I walked out of the theater being like, I enjoyed that a lot. And then the more I thought about it, like how quickly it soured in my brain. But I don't think that even a spectacle Spielberg movie is really putting the amount of butts in seats that it needs to, when these sort of like almost underdogs are coming out of nowhere because they feel fresh and different and weird. And this feels like, especially with the pedigree of where the book came from, you could do that. I get there.
100%.
Yeah. I feel like I'm poo-pooing on the movie a lot too. I don't want to do that. I think that I mean, you could even go into the straight up performances, right? Like Millie Alcock is, I think, phenomenal in this. And this is actually her, I think, first feature film.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I didn't look into that because I just assumed. So she's like, I've obviously seen her in House of the Dragon. Yep. I also saw her in some Australian show. I can't remember what it was. But like, she's one of those actors from another country where I'm like, she could be brand new, or she could have been working for 10 years on some sitcom that I've never heard of. So like, I didn't look her up too much.
I think the majority of her stuff, if not all of it, has been TV before she appeared as Supergirl at the end of Superman.
Right, because I did see her on that Sirens show too, but that was a show on Netflix. Yeah.
And I think she kills it. I think she carries this movie kind of a bit on her back. I sort of wish that they allowed, it felt like every character in this movie, we can kind of go through them a little bit, like was hampered by the sections of the world that they were stuck in. Like one of the reasons why I think I was like, oh, okay, this can hurry up and wrap up is, other than truly the flashbacks to the city. What's the name of that city? It's the
Argo City.
Argo City. The flashbacks to Argo City, and essentially kinda the bus, the interstellar bus. Everything else felt so coded in either things we saw already in the movie or things we've seen so much in tropes of these kind of things, like the ideal, the world that that she meets what's her name on Ruthie, and where the crime happens to Ruthie's family and the murders and all that feels very Star Wars / Andor coded in a weird way.
Yeah, I can see Andor.
Yeah. And then every other thing is brown city or brown desert. And I'm just like, okay. And so, but every character feels kind of trapped. And because we only see those kind of environments, it never feels as expansive as I feel like I feel like you could do, and I don't want to get into I wish the movie was this, but like, it feels like you could go a million places if you're literally doing a true grit, or like, we have to hunt this group down. Yeah. Go a bunch of places. I thought the bus was my favorite part.
I think the bus was cool. Not like it is in the movie or in the book either. Yeah. They took it on a bus, but the way that scene plays out is different. And I think this was maybe the single choice in terms of adaptation where they made a big change, where I was like, yeah, that's good. That's something. Like, I understand why you made it, and I think it worked 100%.
Also, one of the only moments of the movie that you do see in the trailer, but I had no idea what was going on in the trailer.
Yeah.
And when I saw what was going on here and who these people were and how their powers worked, then I was like, you've teased this. Now it's interesting, and I'm experiencing it. Where I think every other moment that we saw lots of big moments in the trailers, which I guess is fine. That was the totality of the moment. Like there was never a big like, case in point, the super iconic shot of her protecting Ruthie and having her hands like behind her back and shooting the heat beam like away. Like that looks so dope, but it's just against a cannon fodder dude. Like it has no more effect than a punch or anything else, and like the storytelling of the action scene that's going on.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted more of that, because I think as much as I'm saying that like the art direction doesn't do it for me, I think the action direction or the sort of like physicality of what's going on and the way that they frame the shots in the gray brown, 2005 to 2011 video game grayscape of first person shooters. I think the framing is excellent. I think there's so many cool looking shots.
Yeah.
But I was having trouble kind of latching onto it. Was there anything particularly that like grabbed you as something like you were super pumped about, or like that like you took away of like, okay, well this X isn't working, but why? Holy shit. Like, was there anything like that?
I don't know about like that exactly. I think part of it is like a lot of it comes from expectations set by like the trailers, and just like the thing for me is, and I think a lot of the choices in this movie felt like they would have hit 10 years ago more, even like Jason Momoa as Lobo. Yeah. That should have been for me like incredible, because it's perfect casting and he's a fun character. But I do just think we've seen so much of him doing his Aquaman and doing his shtick in Fast and Furious movies and whatever else he's been up to, that like I enjoyed it. But if that came out 10 years ago, that would have blown my mind, and that would have been all I was talking about. I do think the visuals were cool when she was like the scene where she's fighting the brigands on the ship, and there's a lot of like, it's not even all that one take, but it's just her catching guys and tossing them and then doing a big kick and sliding. Like, I like that. I thought that physicality was fun. And I liked the shots, like the one where, I don't remember, I guess this is the second bar they go to, where she tosses Ruthie behind the table and they just see guys flying around. That bit is fun. But, yeah, there was not very much. I'm like surprised that like, I like David Krumholtz so much. Not that I don't like him usually, but I enjoyed that part of the movie. But I don't think there was anything I came out walking out the movie going like, oh my God, that was incredible. Like I thought Millie Alcock did well. The little girl that played Ruthie, I think did fine.
Eve Ridley.
Yeah. And I've seen her in, I guess, just like the 3 Body Problem show. I've never seen her in anything before that. So like I wasn't super familiar with her, but I do feel like I had a good sense for Millie Alcock, and like I think she performed the role exactly kind of what I was expecting, what I think they were looking for.
I think I think it's funny. Then I was like, oh, I really liked her and Crypto's sort of relationship, and I was like, that's really nice. I'm a sucker. That's a very that's an easy thing to lean on as well as but they also did it well. I think this movie just has compounding things that feel like it's been done before. And that another one, other than the color palette, other than the Guardians of the Galaxy, other than, whatever else we sort of go into. One of the next ones is we kind of already saw a movie where a super person rescues a dog. It wasn't the whole movie.
Yeah.
But it was act 2 of a movie. And also, like, if we want to go a little bit further back, even outside of the genre, John Wick obviously rekindled the genre of getting revenge or trying to do something about a dog. So, like, even the fact, like, I knew this was, I like a ticking clock. I understand the stakes. I kind of like, I wonder if this would have hit me harder if that subplot of Crypto getting captured in Superman and an iconic scene of that movie that I loved, when Superman was like screaming at Lex Luthor to just give him his dog back.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, we've seen this emotional arc before in this franchise. And the last thing I'll say is also James Gunn, best in the business, making us care about small woodland creatures in human situations. So like everything still felt compounded like we'd seen it before.
And not only that, like, look at what the plot of this, like, describe the plot of this movie without any specifics. A little animal gets wounded by a bad guy in the beginning of Act 1, and they have X amount of time to save it. So they go on a big journey through space to find the guy because only he has the code that they can use to save the animal. And that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Like, that's what Rocket Raccoon does. And it's so similar. And it's so, even like in the way that it's like, there is a ticking clock, and it's a very specific kind of like code or antidote that only the bad guy has. The bad guy's ship kind of looks kind of like what we end up on in the end of the movie. I would say it has more personality, but like the insides of it and like the aesthetic of it, like honestly, what this movie was missing. And if you look at like kind of things that were in the book and things that worked in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was, stuff like, what is it called? Counter-Earth, where it's just like a planet, but with bunnies and badgers instead of people, because there's a lot of that in this book. There's a whole planet in the book that's the genocide planet, where it seems nice, but then it turns out they did a genocide. And it's just part of the journey of Ruth being like, Supergirl is really cool in situations where everybody else would have their complete spirit broken. She's able to like persevere, and it teaches Ruthie to not kill because Supergirl's like, if you could do it, then I can. Kind of, that's like the vibe of the movie or the book. But yeah, like the other versions of this story have more, I feel like, variety, and there is more. It's just weirder. Like, remember that planet in Guardians 3 that's just like it's the corporation, but it's also like a big gooey like rock in the middle of space. Yeah, like stuff like that. I mean, it's hard to not. I think the problem with adaptations and judging them is like, it's hard to look at a thing that's successful and go like, they should have done it like this because they did like this in the book. Because who cares? It's its own thing. It's successful. But in a situation like this where it's not successful and not fully successful, like, but just like things about it didn't work, it is really easy to look at the source material and go like, oh, there is a more iconic version of this scene. Like, for instance, the bit with the green planet.
Yes.
Have you, I can't remember if we talked about this before or in text or anything. Did we talk about what that planet is missing in the movie that is there in the book that makes it more interesting?
But here's the thing. Yeah, I was so pissed. Now we're getting into deep spoilers, which is totally fine. I was so pissed off at that moment because I both knew exactly how this would rectify when she gets to the planet. It's a yellow sun and a green sun. But then I was like, when they got there, I was like, oh, well, obviously these brigands, which I fucking hate the name brigand.
I know, it is weird.
It's the most basic bitch. Even Ravagers is so close to being too on the nose for something. And I also I like the character's name was Krem of the Yellow Hills. What the hell does that mean? There's no yellow in any of his stuff. I was like, but at least that promises something interesting that doesn't happen.
And in the books, he's not a brigand. He kind of gets adopted by them because he keeps doing all these like mass murders with them.
Yeah.
But he really is just some guy.
Yeah. And so when the sun thing happens, I was like, oh, so Krem's smart and he's going to stay on the green side of the planet because he has a giant ship that can just go around the planet. He's not trapped anywhere. And then I figured that Lobo or something would like, or even Ruthie would make sure to maneuver it in the wrong direction or make it stall out. And that's what would get Kara to be able to move. In the movie, it just rotates and like no one moves and then she's fine and she's back. Like, what happens in the book?
Yeah. In the book, first of all, and this is one of the things that I'm the most curious about, because they said this after the movie came out because people were confused. The question came up, do people in this universe know who Superman is? Like, if you saw the Supergirl crest, would you be like, oh, she's related to Superman? And the answer apparently is no. He's only been operating for 3 years. He doesn't have that many connections to space, even though you have a Green Lantern on Earth and you have a Hawk Girl. So like potentially some of these characters could have told, Lobo and all their friends who Superman is. But that is a planet specifically created to be a prison for Superman, where they engineer a green sun so he can go there and then be beaten up and Kara says like, yeah, I've heard of this planet because they teleport. Krem uses like this weird teleporting thing that only he can do, but it's nobody expects he has it, but he can send Kara to the planet. And she's like, oh yeah, I've heard of this. This is my cousin went here once and it was so terrible. They had to call the Justice League and he only lasted for like 45 minutes, but Supergirl and Ruth have to spend a day on this planet. It's not the home base. It really is just like a weird, like little prison. But the reason Krem doesn't hang out and kill them is because it's also, and I'll show you on the thing, populated by dinosaurs.
What
so
the hell?
Big section of the book where Ruthie, using the sword, has to fight the dinosaurs while Supergirl kind of almost dies in the corner so that they can last through the cycle of the day and then get back to a point where the green sun is gone and Supergirl can protect them. The other thing about the Brigands, because I also don't love the name Brigands, I don't have really strong feelings about it, but it makes a little bit more sense and is a little bit more fun in the book because this is what their ship traditionally looks like. They just have a big pirate ship.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like a pirate ship for space. So I feel like they sell the pirate thing a little bit more, and it doesn't. It feels more specific where it's like, yeah, that kind of is what you'd have to call them because that's what they are. So, the dinosaurs on the green planet is the one thing that I'm like, I get not cutting other things for like, plot reasons and stuff. But like, if we're not putting dinosaurs in a movie where there's dinosaurs, where's the money going? Like, what's the point? Well, this is the fun part.
And you could, it did feel like, essentially a way to make Supergirl sidelined, but not have that sidelining be important to the plot.
Yes.
Especially, and I was even thinking like, maybe because near the end, Krem had the kryptonite darts, the poison kryptonite darts, so he knew that she was a Kryptonian and whatever. Like
how did he know that? Now that I'm thinking about it, like
I don't know.
There aren't other Kryptonian superheroes, and she's not. Yeah, I don't know.
So I was like, oh, maybe he like. I was hoping that it would be like he needed just enough time to, or maybe no, every time I try to make up something, like maybe he wanted her to be able to come get him and then she'd shoot him with like, it made no sense. Actually, Krem, if we're getting there, I think you mentioned some of this in your video on it, which everyone should go check out. I think Krem is kind of the weakest part of the entirety of this movie. And it sounds like from your description, and maybe you could go over it again here, like in the comics, the character is interesting because he is sort of a regular guy that then gets like stuff gets built onto him.
Yeah, he's a guy who we find out late in the story because he did kill Ruth. He's just her dad in the original narrative, but he's an agent of the king of this planet who is a real psychopath, and the king sends him out to see if people will say bad things about the king, and then he kills them. Like that's his kind of job. And in the version in the story, what we find out is even her dad didn't do that. He made a joke to kind of draw that out, and the dad was like, "That's not funny," and he killed the dad because he was like, "That was a pretty funny joke, though." But yeah, this guy. He just looks, and this is maybe the best frame of him, but he just looks like a guy. He's got red hair, and he
almost looks like Oliver Queen, or like a Green Arrow like version, just without that suit. He's got like a sort of a red orangish beard and like fuzzy hair and like a little bit like almost pixie ears with some eyeliner or something.
Yeah, for sure. He has got a little JD Vance eyeliner going on, except cool. But yeah, he's just a guy that Supergirl and everybody constantly underestimates because he's clever-ish. He has access to a fair amount of resources and stuff that he's able to go like, I can do this to get out of this situation. So he's a little wily, but also like he is just, bloodthirsty and like evil in the sense that like he does not, care about human life. So every time Supergirl gets in a situation where she's like, okay, well, these people would have stopped him. He's like, yeah, no, he killed all of them because it was kind of like they were kind of inconveniencing him and they were in his way. So the same way that Supergirl in this book is like this symbol of hope, and not just hope, but like, I guess hope in the future, optimism, all that. This guy is just pure, like he's bad and he's doing things that are so vile that even Supergirl is kind of like, man, this guy does really suck. Maybe I should kill him. Like I don't usually kill people, but like between the dog thing and then other stuff that happens throughout the book. I'm like, this guy is evil. And
it feels like
makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it feels like the Krem in this film is just whatever kind of evil he needs to be in the particular moment to then like just be a bad guy. When like I really want to read the book. I hope that, dear listeners, you probably gathered by now that I'm wishing the movie was a little more like this book that I personally haven't read. However, it just like the style of evil that you've described, Matt, here is like, that's interesting to me. Like there's a build and a vibe, but here, like even based on like character design, like you just sort of get like, oh, this guy is a piece of shit. And what's also interesting is you put sort of Lobo next to that guy, next to Krem in the movie. And Lobo's backstory is batshit and comes from like, what, was that the late 90s? Was that
sure? Yeah.
Because like he just seems like a 12-year-old's like dream of a neat, like the most badass dude you could think of. He rides a motorcycle with a skull on it. He like killed his whole planet in a high school project or some shit. Like
he was bored, he was bored because he wanted to be special and they were all like him. So he wanted to be the Superman of his universe, the last son of whatever he's from. I can't remember. But instead of letting that happen naturally, he just murdered them all, which Supergirl mentions in this movie, which I thought was interesting because it's a pretty bad thing. Like, I feel like on its face, genociding your whole planet is mean. But I kind of thought they would ignore that version of his backstory to make him more palatable and, you know, to make it more fun to sell little popcorn buckets with him on it. But they canonize it, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And he's indestructible, which doesn't really come up here, but like you can cut him into a million pieces and he'll grow back. Like,
right.
He's got an incredible healing factor.
He's What If Wolverine, but the last one of his race, also driving a flying motorcycle and is super strong as well, but not any sort of solar based. He's just super strong.
Yeah, it's definitely down to just his alien physiology, because I don't think he got dropped in a vat of acid, but that's the thing with him is he's just like superhumanly tough by way of that he seems tough. Like he seems like a guy who would jump in any fight and survive it.
He also he looks like he was from an Image comic, like of the same time, just with the sort of like Spawn-esque eye makeup and white skin with the teeth. Like it just and again, another element of this movie that feels too late. Again, I like the character. I think that Jason Momoa does a really good job with him. But like you put him next to Krem, and at least like Lobo is I know they're different characters, they're playing different roles in this movie. Lobo is the interesting version of the Krem that they give us in this movie. So you have the interesting version of this type of guy, and then just like the Temu version, right? Yeah. And it felt odd. I so wish because again, the actor, Matthias, oh God, I'm going to butcher that.
Matthias Schoenaerts, I think is how you pronounce it. Yeah.
He's been in stuff that has been good. And I think he would have done great as this regular guy who turns out to be a monster, not skinned as a monster right away.
Yeah. I feel like there's way more. There's just way more. But I think I think the Lobo conversation is interesting because looking at it, part of me is like, is a version of this movie where just the bad guy is Lobo and he's not really doing bounty hunting, but just doing killing because he's annoyed by what the dad said and like going on that version of the story and just fighting Supergirl. Like part of me is like, they could have done that if it wasn't for, I think, Jason Momoa not wanting to be the bad guy. Like, because I do think they want to make a Lobo book in the future or a movie in the future. I'm very like, I know right now DC has a very creator focused initiative where they just let certain creators pick a character and write about them. But whenever a character gets a solo book in modern comics, I'm like, they're testing the waters or something. And he just got one. So I feel like they, like he would have been an interesting foil here. And I do think he just has a style, like you're saying, like, the Spawn makeup and just like the black and white, the smoking cigars. Like the thing about Lobo and the thing that Supergirl I feel like is missing in this movie too is like there's just specifics. There's things that he seems to like and things that he like some of these characters in this movie, you feel like if you are if they're in an elevator or like they go into a room by themselves, they just stand there.
Yes.
Because they don't have but like Lobo feels like the character that would do stuff because even when you're not looking at him, he's got a life around this.
Yes.
Supergirl, I think, has that by way of Star-Lord, but like, that's why it's crazy to me that they didn't just make her a fan of like Charlie XCX or like contemporary musicians. Like for me, if I'm in charge of this movie, I'm going to Millie Alcock day one and I'm being like, all right, what headphones are you wearing today? What, music are you listening to today? It can be old music. That's fine. But it's going to be yours because we're going to use you or like some friend of yours or something as a template for what a 25-year-old character is 25, 23, something like that is like today. And because we want people to see this movie and go like, oh yeah, that's me. Like I'm a little girl. Like I have connect with her as opposed to like, we'll talk about the music, but like things like that could be a something given personality. So I guess all that is to say, like Lobo is one of the characters in this movie who feels like he does have a personality that and that makes him immediately one of the most interesting guys. Yeah, in the movie.
I feel like in a world like where we just got Lex Luthor in Superman, which I think is a very interesting take on that character. And I'll even say like, no, I guess not. I was trying to think of like, if there's anything else like villain wise in the James Gunn verse of DC. And I liked sort of the villainous arc in season 1 of Peacemaker. I think worked really, really well. But like, I really want villains to sort of hit harder than this, even if they die. Like no one wants Krem will return and whatever. It's not Loki. It's not like, we're not talking about like that. But like, I almost wonder if people are afraid to make a villain too good and then make sure they never come back. Like,
right.
Maybe not. I don't think that's a conscious decision to be like, I'm gonna make this character a little worse. Like, but just like not putting as much not putting that elevator energy into it, right? Like, where Lobo, you can tell they want to do stuff with him because he ends up places in this movie for no reason, and you're like, oh yeah, well, and it never feels odd because he's like, well, of course he'd be there because he's doing stuff.
Yeah,
right?
And even if you don't understand, like, because I've seen people say like, it doesn't really make sense. Why is he kidnapped or why is he imprisoned? He could definitely beat these guys up. And also it doesn't seem like he really gets anything from it because, whatever. But it's like with a character like that, you're like, yeah, but he probably has a reason. He probably came up with a plan because that's how he seems to operate. Or maybe he's an idiot and he got caught in a way that he shouldn't have been able to be. But like, clearly this guy just he's not the tactical genius that you would need to be to, avoid getting caught by these guys. Like I feel like we're able to come up with that stuff with him here because we just, I don't know, he feels more real than a lot of the other, like Krem for sure. But a lot of the other characters in these do.
Even Supergirl, like I liked the performance, but I felt like I understood the character's motivation. There is a tragedy of her background and she has no home and she doesn't feel like she fits in where her cousin is. So she's out drinking away her troubles. That's totally fine. I don't know what kind of person she is. Like there's you know what? I'll tell you because every other time it feels like it's a front when she's in one of the bars or any of that other stuff. There's a moment when she gets the call when she's on the toilet or Ruthie comes in and she runs to the bathroom or something. There's a real moment where I was like, I've met that person, like in college or something like that. Like I got the vibe, and it felt like a real, and not human being in this case, but like what we'd equate to a human being that has a real life and a real thing. And there were so few moments of that. Like Ruthie as a character, also very one note. I get it. But also she's like a kid. So like that's what that felt real enough. It's just, it's not going to really go anywhere.
And that's how this character is in the books too. She's single-minded. Every time she walks in a room, she's like, I'm looking for Krem because I want to kill him. Can any of you guys help me?
Yeah.
And it annoys Supergirl, but like that is how that character is supposed to work.
Totally. You said you wanted to mention the music.
Yeah, music choice is weird. I've seen, I think the most agreed on criticism, like individual kind of nitpicking criticism of this movie is that the needle drop at the end of the movie is bizarre. And just, I've seen conversation about it. I've now seen online the director coming out and saying like, yeah, we went through a lot of different songs, but James really liked this one. He thought it was cool. So it's almost like feels like they're like trying to pass the blame for this to each other. But yeah, the like soft piano cover of was it Jimmy World?
Yeah,
or
the middle karaoke song. You and I think have sung at multiple Nebula events at some point.
Very fun. But yeah, a very, very strange choice here. And someone described this movie as Suicide Squad, the first one-esque, where like the music is just kind of arbitrarily scene to scene. You go like, oh, this is a scene where she's fighting someone with a bat, so let's have a song that talks about bats and swinging bats and stuff. Like it kind of did feel like that, where obviously part of why Guardians worked is because it was this very specific genre of music that they committed to, and that helped to define the character. But like even just they knew kind of, you know, Beastie Boys are a fun song to beat people up to in the third one of those. Like, I cannot figure out what they were going for with this.
So let's bring up the Guardians sort of comparisons. Like one of the songs I think that hits and the Guardians one is kind of music based. Peter Quill is music based. It's what his character latches onto his humanity through. So you already have that through line. Therefore, James Gunn's predilection of wanting to use music and to drive things, it both works diegetically and non-diegetically when he's using his tape player, he's in the ship, or if it's just in the background, even like the Beastie Boys scene. But the one that gets me so hard, and I feel like does this so well, is specifically Cat Stevens' father and son during Yondu's funeral, I believe is when that plays.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
And that is a culmination of that's not saying what the movie's plot is. That is a drive. Like that song is so powerful to get into an emotional mindset of a father coming to terms with a son coming to terms with the mortality of their father. Where if you look at the lyrics for The Middle by Jimmy Eat World, it's like, it just takes some time. Little girl, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything is going to be just fine. Everything's going to be all right. So you've just done the plot of the movie. Like, and it's not the same. Like I could see like that if you've been digging through songs for 6 months, right? And then at the end of it, you're like, this is perfect because it's saying the exact thing. I think I could see a filmmaker, even myself, getting trapped in that, being like, yes, we found it. But I think that comes from a place being very close to the material, and that familiarity, that similarity is actually a hindrance rather than a help of elevating what's going on. You're just explaining it again.
Yeah, it's a question too of like, why this? Not even why the Jimmy World, because I agree. I think it's very on the nose, but like it does. I feel like have at least like the kind of the father and son song. It is the same. It is evoking the spirit of the fight scene and like the idea of that Ruthie is being protected by Supergirl. But why the like soft piano cover of it, and why not just a traditional version of it? Because it is like a big fun action scene, and like that feels like a real choice, but then there's no, at least that I can find, like explanation of why. It's not like, if this were something where like over the course of the movie Supergirl kept drowning out her bar crawls with like really loud exciting music, but we found out that she kind of hates it. But when she gets a second to like really focus or whatever, she listens to something that's smaller or like a little, like this. Then when this plays here, it's meaningful and it's like, oh, this is actually cool. But because there's no context for it, it just feels like they picked a weird song because it was a weird song. And yeah, it just comes back to that. I feel like a lot of this movie just doesn't have an identity, and it really needs one. And I think they could have picked anything, but they just needed to commit to that.
I think it's interesting because like I just loved your sort of take on that. I'm going to take it a step further. We're making up a new version of this movie right now. Where like, what if like the song she puts on Earth is literally, it's Jimmy Eat World. It's Jimmy Eat World's the middle. And for whatever reason, you could even make a joke with her and Clark talking, and the tonality of that is just something that like perfectly drowns out the maximum amount of noise that a Kryptonian can hear is just Jimmy Eats World. So whenever she's trying to ignore something, it's very Max Stranger Things coded, right? With running up that hill, right? Like it's that sort of thing. And then you could do at the end the soft version. Like you could take it because it would matter at that point. This just felt very odd.
I think it could be cute too, now that I'm thinking about it, to see like a version of because I do like speaking of things that work in the movie, the David Corn sweat scenes are great because he's great. And like those are all reshoots, and I completely agree with the decision to do that because it helps. But like, have her just go to his apartment one day, or like, day one on Earth. She's, all sad, and she hears a song, and it's like the greatest song she's ever heard. And she like tells Clark about it, and he's like, oh, that song kind of sucks. Like, I don't know why you like, this is from the 2000s. We have better music than this. Here, I'll listen to this and this. But like, for whatever reason, she just connects to that. And she's like, this is my favorite thing. I guess that would feel, I'm trying to think of characters that feels like, but just something like that you need to earn the big moment, no matter what the lead up to it is, but they had options.
And it's so funny because Superman has a moment like that too, that earns it. Like it's a fake band, but the Mighty Crabjoys for Superman like means something into his ethos of like punk rock is kindness sort of thing. And like it all ties together with, and I know we don't hear that song as a moment in the movie, we hear it in the credits, but even the Iggy Pop mashup of Punk Rocker, like that all plays into who Superman is because the movie sets it up. And so, I don't want to harp on the music of it too much, but this movie, while fun, and I won't say I didn't have a good time watching it, it's not something that I actively think about or I feel emotionally tied to a character after a journey now, because all of the disparate pieces either feel like I've seen them before, or we are seeing scenes before an elevator door closes, and then we're waiting for the next scene when the elevator door opens. They don't feel like real people. I think that analogy was great.
I wish that like this, and I think where this really, like my new question they ask of all movies is, would I recommend this to someone that doesn't usually watch these? And the answer to this one is absolutely not. They would get kind of bored by it. They'd be like, yeah, no, I watched that second Thor movie. I didn't like that. This is kind of like that. Yeah. But I feel like it's so difficult because I think pretty much everything else in the new DCU, Superman, Peacemaker, even Creature Commandos, are things that I'd be like, no, even if you don't like these, that's cool. It's well made. It's different. So, and I think I'm just getting if I had to guess, a Lantern show written by Tom King and Damon Lindelof, and this weird Clayface thing that is clearly gonna be way more gross out body horror than I was expecting. Those I think will also be that. So it's really annoying that the second movie in the franchise is the one that's like, skip it, it's fine, Yeah. But that is how Marvel started with the Incredible Hulk movie that everybody ignores. So maybe it's part of success.
Also true. Also true. Yeah.
And in like 15, 20 years, Krem will be the bad guy in a movie, and we'll be like, oh, it's Krem. I kind of remember him, and that movie will be bad. And man, Captain America: Brave New World is such a bummer. But
it really is.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be. We could go into that too at some point, but that's a movie that did not have to be a bummer. I feel like, actually, I'll even tie it back to Supergirl right now with that. I feel like this movie, and I won't call it a bummer, but this movie feels like, due to all of the ground it's retreading and all of the timeliness it is not hitting, is kind of faded or condemned or just guaranteed itself to be in this middling place that we're finding it.
In the middle, like Jimmy Eat World, you know?
Look at that. We tied it all together. It just takes some time.
Yeah. I think, and it's a movie that, like, if anybody told me they didn't like it or liked it, I would believe them. I'd be like, yeah, you know, I could see it.
Yep.
I can't remember who it is. Somebody made a video. One of our Nebula people, might have been Sarah Zed, I think it's who it was, made a video on something they called sacrificial trash. Have you ever seen this before? It's like from a while back.
I think so. That sounds like a Sarah Z thing.
If this is correct, and if it's not, you know, forgive me, whoever it was that made the video. But the idea was just like, and one of the examples they use is She-Hulk, which I don't agree with. I think She-Hulk is awesome, but there's things like this, and this is a good example of it, where it is not great, and people see it and go, it's not great. And then the chuds come in and go like, yeah, because it's a girl, and it's like Supergirl, nobody cares. And you don't want to let them win, but at the same time, you don't want to go like, no, it's actually great. This is a secret gem. It's this weird thing where, like, you feel like you got to stick up for it, but at the same time, like, it's really not that great. So it's hard to muster it, you know? It's a tough spot.
Yeah, we don't want to agree with fucking I'll say sexist fuckboys. But we also don't want to just praise something because it happens to fall in a demographic that needs more representation. And again, like that, like, I do think that I think anyone who is a fan of Supergirl or a fan of superhero movies in general and did truly like the Marvel movies from the mid 2010s, right? You'll find something here that you'll like. You'll probably have seen it before, but there is zero offensively bad about this movie outside of, I think, Krem. I think the villain is kind of on that line, but again, that's not Supergirl, the character's problem. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, it's a really interesting conundrum that current media landscapes have put folks in that don't want to praise something if it's not great, but also don't want to let chuds win. Which I think we're riding a decent line here. Like, it's a shame because, like, a lot of the media, a lot of the big flops this is being compared to are also movies, and even I would say better versions of this, but like The Marvels is your big Marvel flop, and that is the female-led version of that. And that I will go to bat for. And then the other big, it's like fine. It's like, too. I could see, it's another one where if somebody told me I didn't like it because I thought it was this, I'd be like, yeah, I get it. But the other one that I was talking to somebody at a party the other day, and was another weird flop for this genre was the Harley Quinn movie, which I think is maybe like my favorite or second favorite movie in that universe. So like, that's a situation where it's like, no, I will pull out like individual timestamps and go, no, this movie is awesome because of this and this and this and this. And it's tough with the Supergirl movie because they just don't have that same energy, because I think the movie is fine, but it's not, you know, I think it will come and go though. That's the thing. We got Spider-Man in a month. We got Minions next week that apparently everyone says is actually good. I don't believe them, but they do keep saying it. Really?
And something else, right? Live action Moana. So we'll hate that in 2 weeks, and then we will forget about this. So I think at the end of the year, we'll have our conversation about movies. Like, everybody will be kind of looking back, and I feel like a lot of us will have forgotten this movie existed, and it's a shame. But also,
I agree.
If Warner Brothers wasn't in such a screwy spot right now with Larry Ellison taking over and having a lot of incentives to clean house, I wouldn't be worried, because I'd just be like, whatever, one fine movie. They redeemed themselves with Man of Tomorrow in a year and everything's good. But because of the Warner Brothers like buyout situation in CBS, I'm a little bit more like, this could be what Larry Ellison needs to go like, see, we're not going to make these movies anymore, James Gunn. Sorry, we're restructuring, and that would be a shame. But you know, that's how media is right now, and it sucks.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely, in a very sad way. Well, this has been
That's right.
only podcast about the film Supergirl, although I believe that's probably not the case if we go into the multiverse. Matt, Nando, thank you so much for coming in and pulling co-hosting duties.
I was just gonna say, we have in my section of the multiverse on world 005. That's really low. 555 or whatever. We also have a podcast about movies. And in fact, because ours are always like a week behind because we have, hosts have kids and jobs and it's impossible to schedule 3 people. But we have a episode out probably now-ish when this goes out of us talking about the Supergirl movie from 1984 with Helen Slater. So that is a ride, and like that movie is a trip.
Nice.
They get all kinds of weird stuff into this, and there's a couple of kind of things like Argo City exists in both, but besides that, it is so bizarre, and it will make you, if anything, go like, you know what, that new one's pretty good compared to that. It doesn't have the Omega Heat, doesn't have all those witches and all the things that make that movie so great. So on my podcast, Mostly Nitpicking, we talk about that, and we will potentially in our pocket dimension talk about Supergirl, Supergirl, not Woman of Tomorrow, the movie. And then on my YouTube channel, I have videos. Right. I have a video that'll probably come out as of like when we're recording this today. That's I think the last choice in this book and in this movie is like, there is, so like, we're fully spoiling the book, right? Or the movie, right? Like, yeah, okay. So in the end of the movie, she kills Krem.
Yeah.
In the end of the book, they don't do that. She almost does, but then Ruthie convinces her not to because revenge is bad. And I think that choice to do it in the movie is fascinating. So I have a video that's going to come out that's just me kind of talking through like why it works in the book, why I don't think it works in the movie, what it says about the movie, what it says about like the rewriting and kind of adapting, big changes like that. So that is all on Nando V Movies, the Nando Cut, which you can find on YouTube. You can also find, I have a TikTok that I think is just Matt Nando Kelly, and then Instagram. And then also I have Nebula. I'm on Nebula with Matt and all these fine people. Add Nando V Movies is the channel, and the Nando Cut is also the channel for that. So those are all the places you can find me.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, man. And yes, please, everyone, find all of those wonderful things. I'm so interested in hearing your video on that choice. I know we didn't touch on it here much, but that just means I have something to listen to later this week.
It's fascinating. It's a fascinating choice. And every time one of these people that made the movie talks, they say a new thing about it. So my video is always going to be a little behind, but like they say like, this is why we did that. And I'm like, oh, God damn it. I just finished the video.
Yep.
So I may make an update to it, but it's I think this is a movie that as time goes on and we hear more about stuff that was cut, like for instance, apparently Krem had a sad backstory where he was raised as like a kid by an abusive mom who wanted to turn him into a superhero or something. Like that got cut because people saw that in early screenings and were like, that was bad. And then it's not in this. So like, I think as time goes on, we'll learn more about this movie and it'll kind of be maybe more interesting than the movie itself. My
last thought about the kill, honestly, is like maybe because and this might not be the same in the book, but Supergirl is kind of still in that book, still very like, no, Ruthie, vengeance is bad. And she says that in this movie too. But is she in the book? Is she also kind of like wayward and listless and kind of like a vagabond kind of not how do I put it? In this movie, we have the great line about Clark sees the good in people and I see the truth. Is that sentiment in the book?
A little bit. I would say that she is the Supergirl in the beginning of the book is exactly like the Supergirl in the beginning of the movie. As the book goes on, she kind of is able to Supergirl up and like in a situation, kind of like the bus situation, where she's like, I need to be Supergirl now because otherwise we're all going to die. So like she rises to the occasion, and as the book goes on, I think that's what we see is her being put through these trials of like this thing dies and she gets sent to the Green Planet and is able to continue being Supergirl throughout. She doesn't have the Supergirl, or she doesn't have the Clark sees the good in everybody, I see the truth. But a couple of the lines, like the the gods weren't that kind.
Yep.
Argo City didn't die in a day. Like that did make it into both. Like a couple of other lines did, but it definitely feels like a different choice. But it's just like, it's so crazy to me that it's the fundamental choice of the book, and it is what the book is about. And then in the movie, they just changed that. And
I wonder if it's because in the way they've kind of set Clark up in this DC cinematic universe as like the one true good person, like Hawkgirl kills somebody in Superman, and like Guy Gardner he doesn't really give a shit. Like I wonder if there's sort of an edict of to try to make her not seem just like a pure sort of carbon copy at the end of this movie as him, like to have two boy and or Girl Scout coded characters might not function in the grand cinematic scheme. I have no idea.
That has always been a problem of hers in the material, is that she, a lot of the time in the comics, is just kind of Superman, but girl over here, like different place. And, and I think that's what this book does really well, and how it kind of redefined her as, because usually she's in space, frozen or whatever in a pocket dimension, and she left at the same time as Clark, so she didn't see Krypton fall, and now she's kind of, so like this book, I don't know if that completely rewrote that, but that is a fundamental thing that I feel like is interesting about the Supergirl from this book, and the Supergirl from this movie. So at least that part of it exists. Like, she is a more cynical Supergirl than Clark is a Superman. But I do think this movie tries to create a tougher version of Supergirl. I just feel like it makes the movie kind of not really about anything, as opposed to like having a simple but like a real directive and like a just a moral that the story is trying to really like test. And so that video will be up soon. Nice. But fascinating little movie, Supergirl.
Fascinating little film. Well, next week, dear Topim fam, we are going to be before we have one more new film before we're doing our summer break. We've done a summer of John Cusack, the Cusack Attack. We have 3 John Cusack movies coming out. We're doing High Fidelity, we're doing Gross Point Blank, and we're doing Con Air.
Right, yeah. I was forgetting.
I know you always forget that he's there, but he is a main character in that movie.
He's on the phone for a lot of it.
Yeah. But before that, we will be doing The Invite. That will be next week's film.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but I'm also very curious about that.
It is super interesting and definitely worth your time, I think.
Oh, you've seen it? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm actually, no lie, Nando, I'm recording that podcast in a half hour.
Sick.
But until then, dear listeners, thank you so much for listening. Matt, thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll talk to y'all next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.